So, yeah, he's quite good. For myself, it was drug and alcohol abuse. So I guess like most people, we went into lockdown, and there's a bit like, shit, well, what do I do here? In my head, so one, I wanted to undo all the damage that I had done to my mind and my body throughout 2019, but now I'm physically in the best shape that I've ever been in my life, to be honest with you. Hey guys, hope you're okay and everyone's having a fantastic weekend so far. My good friend Forde has requested, bullied, asked me to tell you a little bit about the journey that we've been on together, which is roughly about 6 months now. But before I go into a bit more about the program that we've been doing together, I think it's probably important to understand a bit more about the context of how we got to where we are today. I guess this all started probably back in 2018, because this is more than a body transformation. This is something that goes far deeper and has had a much more impactful benefit on the entirety of my life. And like I said, it was back in 2018 where, to be honest with you, I guess like most people, just life started to chip away at me, started to get on top of me, and allowed things to get on top of me. And then when we go into 2019, that started triggering a lot of, I guess, what can be described as like mental fatigue to begin with, but then that fatigue then turned into mental health issues. And when you get to that point, it starts creating a bit of a chain reaction where that brings on the anxiety, the depression, and then once that sort of ball starts rolling, you then start spiraling out of control. You self-destruct, and that's all being triggered by this self-sabotage, where you feel like you don't deserve to be happy. So it really destroys every aspect and impacts every bit of your life. It destroyed relationships, damaged friendships, put split between family, set me back career-wise. It was, really, really destructive. When you're spiraling out of control, and that goes through for a number of months after months after months, it's very isolating. And I guess that's the point of it, because then that isolation brings with it, for my story in particular, was you find crutches, you find psychological crutches to what you think are helping you at the time. And that manifests differently for everyone. And that then goes further, and regrettably, it then materializes into the desire to self-harm and a little whisper in your ear that says there's an easy way out of this, which is very difficult. And all this was going on for months throughout 2019. But it wasn't until about the summer that it all came to a bit of a climax, and this behaviour and this isolation was sort of noticed and spotted. And thankfully, I had the resilience to fight those urges and then to seek help, which was probably the most important aspect of all this, is reaching out to someone to get you help, and then surround yourself with that network to make sure you find the right people. So from that, I was able to start the recovery process. So that was 2019, which was fun. And then went into 2020 out of the rut. So I was feeling a lot better. Okay, well, not a lot better. I was, a completely different person, and I was positive and confident about life, and I wanted to rediscover myself and get back on track, get to the person who I was before, but then also become a better person at the end of it. So we went into 2020 full of ambition and goals and dreams, and that didn't quite work out to plan, did it? So I guess like most people, we went into lockdown, and it was a bit like, shit, well, what do I do here? Because for me, I was still at the early start of my recovery. So there's a couple of things going for me. I had the other side of it, which was keeping this dark side, this malevolent side of me at bay during what was going to be a very stressful and again isolated period. So this was all running through my head. But I thought, well, you know what, if we're going to be in lockdown, we are going to be restricted. What we do have an abundance of is time. So I set about putting a program together by myself at first, to try and fill that void and make sure that everything I was doing throughout it was going to be beneficial and help me to not only undo the damage, but keep that person who I didn't want back in my life away. And I guess it started like most other people during lockdown, which was, you dust off those dumbbells that have been sat in your bedroom for years, you get out the roll mat, and that's all it was. And I started doing that every single morning, trained myself to start getting up at 5 a.m. so I could get some routine, making sure I was getting rid of that energy, because we weren't moving as much just about daily business. So it was about sort of putting that program together, and I did that for about a month, and I was really pleased. I was like, oh, I'm seeing some good results straight away from the end of it. And, they're only small things, only really small steps, but from when you were coming from that place that you've been, it was big progress in my head. And that was the trigger where I was like, okay, great. So I've come this far, but then how do I take this further? How do I go beyond? What's the next stage of this? Because I before that I was a casual gym user, I guess. It was very much on off, dictated by work, fun, everything else. But the health, fitness, nutrition was always sort of a side thought, or it was always the first to be substituted, or it was very sort of trend led or silver bullet for when you're about to go on holiday. It wasn't really ingrained in my lifestyle to any extent. So I needed some help and some support, and I didn't know where to turn to. But I'd known Forde for a number of years, but I was only on a friendship level. Never worked with him professionally, but I did know that he was a very understanding man. So I thought he'd be the best person to have a chat with. And this is a bit odd because he's obviously based in Leeds and I'm based in Manchester. So we started doing consultations just over video phone like we're doing now. And he listened, and he sort of interpreted what I was talking about and what I wanted to achieve. And he would then interpret that into a program and a plan that I could follow. And that's where this whole thing started from. So, it was building up with the exercise and nutrition and advice and guidance, so I could have this program to follow. And that was still at home at the time, and it was really good. Again, I kept on building on the results. But what I found was that, yes, the physical change was great to see, but it also triggered a very wider benefit in my life. And this was only a few months into our training together. But what I found was that I guess it kept pushing you, or I guess it was about being inquisitive. It was about seeing this progress that you've made on one part of yourself and then wondering where else you could make improvements. Because I think that's probably one of Forde's strengths, is acknowledging that, training isn't just about physicality, it's about body, mind and soul to some extent. So we've been on this journey together now, and I think the thing that works for me with I don't want to call it personal training, because we're not doing personal training. I don't think personal training would work for me, because what I wanted, or what I discovered, was that I wanted health and nutrition to be part of my lifestyle. I didn't want it to be get to a Sunday evening and then book in my personal training sessions for that week. I like my life to be quite fluid. I do have a lot of pressures with work and everything else, so I wanted something that not I would work around or would even work around me. I just wanted it part of my life, because then it becomes second nature. And if it's second nature, then it's something you'll continue to do for the rest of your life, as opposed to, again, that magic bullet just because you want to change a part of your body because you're going to be lying on the beach somewhere or something like that. So I think it was very important to ingrain it into my lifestyle. So that's why I think I describe this more as coaching and mentoring, which has a lot of other benefits to it, because it opens your mind up to other aspects of how this can have an impact on your life. So we've increased the training program, and I'm very, very happy with the results, and physically in the best shape that I've ever been in my life, to be honest with you. But then what it has done then is explored me to have a look at other areas. So we're now tackling a lot of the nutritional benefits. So we're exploring a lot of nutrients and what other things I can start consuming to help with that journey and help with the gains. And the next phase of that is moving on to onto the spirituality, but not in the religious sense, but the strengthening your mind to make it become more resilient. So Ross has this really deeper understanding of what a coach or a mentor can provide, just beyond building muscle mass or toning or slimming or whatever it is. So I think it's always going to this with an open mind, or whatever it is. So I think it's always going to this with an open mind, and try to make the most of it. Try to be more, I guess, because having come from where I've been, this isn't about being a better man. This is about being the best man I could possibly. So that sounds really Gillette, I know. I really regret saying this now, but that's it. If I can be the best of myself in every aspect of my life, then I can help my friends more, and I can help others around me. I can have a better and bigger impact on the world, certainly something that's more positive impact. So that's very important to me now as my goal. So whereas originally my goal might have been to just get in better shape because I'd done a lot of damage to my body during 2019, actually it's evolved to a much higher plane. And I'm very proud of the progress that we've made. And this journey doesn't have an end point. I don't think any of it should have an end point. It should always be striving for better. It should always be constantly evolving, constantly changing. So you might reach a goal or feel that you have accomplished something, but don't stop there. Think about, well, what's the next phase? And that goes beyond the physicality side. Look more within yourself and think about, stop, reflect, and really think about, where am I unhappy in my life at the moment? And it's beyond what I'm looking at in the mirror. Really look deep down to try and pinpoint what that is, because it's all interconnected. So whereas yes, a personal trainer you think is just that individual who pushes you in a park to do that extra push-up to motivate you, it's they can have a much bigger impact because it's all interconnected. But that hard work has to be done by you. It has to be done by you. You have to be that person that does it all. So for me, personal trainers, one-to-one sessions doesn't really work for me. But that mentoring, that coaching with someone who is 40, 50 miles away, has been crucial to my development. And like I said, because it is more of a hands-off approach, I'm not reliant on that person to wave the magic wand to force me to get out of bed. You know what I mean? This is stuff that I want to do, in a way and a manner that fits me, and is most beneficial to me. So, yeah, he's quite good. So I highly recommend Forde, as you might get from the gist of this video. And apologies if that's a bit of a loose introduction. There's a lot more that went on over the last 3 years than can be summarised in a few minutes of video. But what I would say is that 2020 has been a shit year on so many levels for so many people, and whilst I can appreciate we're not all in the same boat, we are all certainly in the same storm. So you got to find your way, and you got to navigate your way through this. And what I didn't want to do was get to 60-year-old and then look back and think, geez, 2020, what a shit year that was. And don't get me wrong, I haven't been affected as much as a lot of people out there. But I wanted this year I wanted to create something positive from this year. I wanted to look back on this year and not remember it for the obvious reasons. I wanted to actually look back at this and think, yes, this was probably the toughest year that any of us are going to experience. But I wanted to find a silver lining, and I wanted it to be the year that I actually rediscovered myself, the year that I reinvented myself, and the year which I really, really strive to become a better individual and a better man, a more resilient man. I think that's key, resilience, because this is a tough old world that we're living in. And if you're not careful, these pressures, which seem very innocuous, very small, they do and they can build up and have the effect that I felt. So be mindful of that. And I thought I was the mentally strongest person back in 2018, and that's why I guess I ignored everything, and that's how I let it build up. So it can happen to anyone, and that's something I don't wish on anyone, no one. But I'm very grateful now, which is an odd thing to say, but I'm very grateful to have experienced it, because what that has allowed me to do is to spot the signs in other people. They're very hard to see because we mask them behind smiles and all that stuff. We hide them very well, especially men, where you have this toxic masculinity where you're not allowed to show weakness. So we hide everything. But I'm very, very grateful that I can now see all these signs and be able to intervene. And that's either helping people out of the situation that they find themselves in, or hopefully if you can spot them early enough to avoid them falling into the same pitfalls. So there is a silver lining to this, I guess, and that's using my experience to help others. And look, I'm sure Forde will, if anything I've said today is connected with you, then Forde will put you in touch. And I'm not a trained psychiatrist or therapist or anything like that, but I can listen and I can give you advice and wisdom just from my own experience, if that helps. But otherwise, I would say that it's not too late to make 2020 a year that you start on the journey at least. Ross has that fantastic ability to help you achieve those goals. It's that listening, and I'm sure he's probably worked with a lot of individuals like myself who have those initial conversations which are about physicality and body change and everything else like that, but maybe has the intuition to see that there is something deeper going on beneath the surface. And then through the coaching and mentoring, it's able to really expand those goals and talk more openly about whatever areas of your life you'd like to improve on, because you can feed that all into the program, whether that be through meditation, whether it be through the nutrition, whether it be through vitamins and supplements, or even then just the training itself. So it has that sort of that real that mental benefit that really helps in the long run. So it's been good for me. Like, I wish you can see my references from all my friends, and I think they would say that I'm a completely different man to what I used to be. But yeah, I think it's a tough journey, but it's fun at the end of it. And if you can integrate it, it just becomes second nature, and I love every second of it now. Generally, I couldn't imagine a way of life that's different to this. So, I hope that's helpful to someone out there, and I hope it's the start of your journey. And thank you for listening, and I wish you all the very best for the rest of the year. And let's make sure that 2021 is a much more positive and prosperous year for everyone. So no fuckery about, right?